Welcome to our session on the top challenges in unlocking enterprise value from data. This session will be Q&A format with no slides. I have the easy job asking the questions. The star of the show providing real insights on the topic is Dr. Ratneesh Suri, Head of Data and Analytics from the Ports of Auckland. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
You've been in leadership roles driving 3 large-scale transformations for companies like ANZ, IAG, and now the Ports of Auckland. In each of these, you have faced the challenges of unlocking enterprise value from data. To kick things off, we'd love for you to introduce yourself and share as much context as you can about your journey.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. I think if I were to introduce myself, I will start by saying that I'm someone who is in love. So I'm a servant leader, absolutely in love with what I do, which is all about helping people thrive and using data, technology, and algorithms to create awesome outcomes for organizations and awesome outcomes for people. And I've been fortunate enough to actually have a career that has allowed me to live my passion. All of the organizations that you talked about and everything in between, including my engagements with nonprofits, which were primarily tech and data related. I've been really lucky to have the network and to have the opportunities to do everything that I've always loved and also make a difference to people. So yeah, and they also say that when you're in love, it shows. So I think when we have a chat today, my love and passion is definitely going to show. So feel free to stop me if I'm just, on a ride and just go on and on. But yeah, thanks again.
That's outstanding. And so one thing I'm super curious about when it comes to these kind of passions, is this something you developed over time as you went from challenge to challenge in these major transformations? Any point in your career where these became obvious to you, or learnings over time that you had?
I think it's an over time evolution, Tom, but I think the basic characteristic is something that I've always had. So I am a passionate person, since very beginning, whatever I've done, it always had more than 100% of me, whether I was actually listening to radio shows and writing letters to radio jockeys, or I was doing, my PhD in applied mathematics from here. I just loved doing things. And I also loved helping people. So I think that came together. When I finished my PhD, I had an opportunity to think about, I love academia, continue with academia and do something in postdoctorate research, or I had this option presented to actually get out of academia and start with ANZ. And I kind of sat back and thought, I would really like to see how the real world operates and how I can make difference to the real world and take whatever I've learned and translate that into the real world outcomes. So I chose ANZ. And I think that was one of the best decisions that I had made. So, you said, asked me to share a bit about my journey. So I think I can talk to my passions along with telling you a little bit about the journey that I've had in these 3 organizations.
Yeah.
So you start with the ANZ, and my leadership journey also started a little bit later within ANZ only. And at that time, I'm talking more than 10 years back, we were actually ahead of the curve. So not many mainstream organizations, at least not in New Zealand, were thinking about, really building out big data capabilities. We had identified data and insights as actually a great untapped, kind of value potential that we could unlock. And the idea was to build out the capability from just 10, 12 people and grow it to a point where, we can scale things and we can do awesome stuff. So in less than 3 years, we were 50 plus, strong team. And my role in that journey was to lead and build out our advanced analytics capability. So we were calling them customer insights manager at that time. In today's speak, by all means, you will call them data scientists. We were building customer segmentation models, predictive models. Today, if you're doing that, you will say, oh, it's machine learning because it's unsupervised learning. We were just calling it clustering at that time. You'll call it AI. We were just building churn models according to those standards. But that was a really awesome journey, and gave me kind of my first taste into people leadership and what does it actually entail when you're building out these capabilities. The campaign delivery team that also reported to me at that time, and the strategic objective really at that time was customer experience and customer contact, and delivering those great experiences to our customers by which we could deliver value, but we could also retain them. Because we know that, the basic marketing principle, you're satisfied customers stay longer, they're great promoters and they buy more. So it was like, tick, 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 we're doing the right thing, as long as, we're being ethical. Just because we can, does that mean we should? Was the driving factor in the marketing space for us at that time. So that was an awesome journey, bringing the campaign team and the insights team to work together. So you can actually use the insights to take some action about it. You're building a model, building an insight, instead of leaving it on a shelf, just collecting dust or delivering no value. How could you actually execute upon it? So that was an awesome curve, definitely with its challenges, because nobody knows how to execute these things well. Certainly not in these times. People are still learning. So it had its own challenges, but I enjoyed the journey, and we developed quite a few data products, the algorithm products. And the company was now looking to, okay, how do I utilize, how do I execute? So I was kind of in a space where cruising, the team was already high performing here. And I was, okay, ready for the next challenge now. We're all good. They don't need much of me here.
Yeah. So before you go to the next challenge, because I have a question here on this one, because it always, having been a pseudo participant, I have a long consulting background and have helped work with companies going through transformations. But it's always from the outside, of course. So here you're faced with your first, not just your first leadership challenge, but also the challenge of how do I take a large enterprise, which is always hard to drive change in, and the confluence of those. How did you? Is there a way, as you look back on that, where you go, yeah, here's what I did. I didn't know I was doing it, maybe, but here's the key things I did that actually made this work.
Absolutely. I had huge learnings. I spent 10 years at ANZ at quite a few different roles, including the leadership roles. So I had big learnings that I spent quite a bit of time reflecting and learning from that before I joined IAG. And I was then able to put all of those learnings into practice into the new role, and again, reap even larger benefits, because you rightly say so, right? Most of the organizations I've worked with are traditional enterprises. They've been there for 50 years, 100 years. They've done things a certain way. They've been able to make money. And, the times that we are talking about, at that time, data was considered as a competitive advantage, not a hygiene factor. We are slowly getting into that era where you just have to do it. You've got to transform. At that time, transformation was a luxury.
Yeah.
And given that ANZ was the biggest bank that, we're talking about ANZ here, there was no financial reason to transform. And while, we definitely wanted to be customer centric and customer experience driven, there was no pressing reason from a P&L's perspective or even from risk perspective, because that was the first thing on our radar, making sure we are able to explain if we're using a model, we're doing it right by the customer. Right. Responsible lending, ethical models. Yep. That's where we were spending our time on. Really, that strategically linking the business strategy to data strategy and rallying the whole organization around it. Big oil tankers, they take time to turn. And if there is no pressing reason, you can imagine. And that's where, we were encountering a lot of challenges around the traditional, again, way of working, where analytics teams usually are order takers, whether it's a data team or analytics team. There is a request queue, and right. You go, okay, can I have that? Business will come and go. And you go, okay, let me go and see what I can do for you. Hide under a table, give them something. Work, doesn't work, gets used, doesn't get used. That is how analytics and data teams have operated for a very long time. So we could see that we are spending weeks and weeks on building insights, because it was also an insights function. But then people, we got no idea what to do with them as a bank or as a business. And again, it is nobody's, it's not about blaming people or saying we didn't know how to do it. It was very new. People are still struggling with that. Yeah. So that's why you need to have the right execution underpinning it. And so that challenge was there when you're saying that, how did you transform? The transformation was happening in pockets. But taking it to a scale level at an organizational level, it needed a top-down change. And that needed a lot bigger reason. So that's why, putting everything together, I was like, what the organization needs right now from us, they've got it. Now they need some time to actually make a step change and get to this next level of maturity. I am doing whatever I can, but I need to have a bigger seat at the table to be able to do that.
Right.
But instead of just trying to push for that, my biggest learning was nudge, but do not nag.
Yeah.
So when I felt...
Oh, wait, I'm going to write that down. That's awesome. Okay.
So
nudge,
when
but do not nag.
Yeah. So when I felt to the point where I felt I was becoming a nagging data leader, I was like, that is not good for the organization. That's not good for me. It's time to take some time out. I'm proud of what we've achieved together, with the business and with our people. I'm really proud of where the team is at and what they're building and delivering. Time for me to sit back, reflect, and think, what do I want and how do I want to be in my next role or the next place? So that was the right pause. I had a lot of learnings. And when I got into the next role, I knew what to do differently. So I could actually plant that seed right from the start and actually make things happen in a transformational way.
Oh, I see. So just to toss that back, the way I heard it is one of the things in this first experience was that there wasn't I just call it the top down, either understanding or need. Frankly, it sounded like from a P&L standpoint to drive change. And so next time around was, hey, we need to set some vision there at that level such that people know that they do need to change and to get that organizational buy-in at that level.
That's right. And that was the learning. Then I applied it to the next role, and I went and IAG presented itself where when I joined, they had spent the last 2 years building a data capability. So they were already IAG's, parent company is in Australia. So although they're two different kind of, separate entities, but still a lot of work happening together in terms of thinking and where we're going and where we're heading. And at the same time in New Zealand, because you probably won't be aware, IAG is a sum of a lot of brands. So we've got business insurance, that's different brands like NZI. We've got direct to consumer, which is again two main brands, AMI as well as State, and a few other smaller ones. So IAG had evolved over time at the back of all of these acquisitions. And with that came all the disparate technology, disparate data systems, and all of those interesting problems.
Yep.
Where you go, I want one view of the world. Yeah, how do I create it?
Your one customer is actually 6 different customers.
Exactly.
in each of those systems.
Yeah, because you may think, that's, so, but the customer sees you as one company, right?
Yeah.
And a huge technology project underway to do all of that back end, core system rationalization and consolidation and transformation. But at the same time, they wanted to use data as a competitive advantage. And while the data capability was being built since last 2 years, we had data lake in place and, a few deliveries being made to truly unlock the value of the data. Again, a leadership role is what they were looking for to fill. And that's where I stepped in, leading the analytics and AI capability to actually drive value from the assets that we were building and also fill in the gaps. And, we could very quickly see that customer analytics capability was missing, for example. And while on the one hand, I was transforming the BI capability, the reporting and everything else that we were doing to bring it to a point where it's a lot more user-friendly, a lot more trusted. At the same time, I had started taking them on the data science and the AI journey. And that's where I knew that I'm not going to sit and open up a queue and say, what would you like me to do? I rather have to play a thought leadership role here to say, that is what I think we should be doing. And that needs to come from business needs, critical business needs, something that's either a burning problem or something that excites them. So the burning problem we found from the BI space, because a lot of organizations are in that, kind of zone where they go, too many numbers, too many metrics, don't know where to go, don't know what's trusted. It's too hard to talk to you guys and don't want to sit in a queue. So we could transform BI. And at the same time, I established a customer analytics function and the data science function and formed those relationships with key business people and senior leaders to actually start influencing at that point and start drawing use cases that are quite relevant to where they want to be. We were building data science models to understand customer complaints. We were using natural language processing on one hand to show the regulator we are compliant and we're looking after the customers, and on the other hand to use those insights to then make our products better. We introduced new cross-functional ways of working where instead of people sitting in a ivory tower COE and just taking requests, they were kind of integrated in those digital journey teams, for example, working with the entire squad to optimize, use data science to optimize an online portal where we were going to write insurances for our small business customers. We were then building models to look at contact center digitalization, doing POCs on digital humans. So but I was doing all of that with the business leaders, partnership and sponsorship. So that was the biggest lesson that I had learned, that again, applying that learning, that only do something if you got a business owner and a business sponsor for that. Do less, but then create value out of that, demonstrate value out of that, and take people on that journey with you.
Excellent. That's awesome. I had another colleague of mine the other day, and I hope I can remember this quote that he came up with, which was something like, you don't win any awards for the coolest architecture. You win awards for delivering business value.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh my gosh, like that's absolutely perfect. And it sounds like similar to what you not just learned, but that you applied.
Totally. And, at the same time, we were able to inspire the team and, like retain talent because we were doing good work. And, I was there to remove blockers. If you're building a data science model, given the security challenges that we have today, where the world is heading and where the hacking and the cybersecurity or not having in place or not is heading, you've got to make sure that if we're using open source, we are safe and secure, and we are doing it in a way that we can actually be comfortable that we are looking after our people, our customers, and their data. So building data science workbenches that are secure enough, and all of the technology orchestration at the background, that was also very interesting projects for the team. I remember the smile on the face of my data scientist when he got his first GPU powered machine that took us months to build. It was a big organization, loads of people coming in to build it. And he ran the model, and the time to insight reduced from 12 hours to 15 minutes.
Oh.
And the smile on his face was like, oh, this is the dream I'm living. And the business stakeholders was like, wow, that's exactly what we need. Do not take weeks to give us something. Do not take hours to run it. How quickly can you make it happen?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm weaving in some of the things that I've run across in my career here too, which was a notion of always trying to drive the cost of the next question to zero. And that's how you can innovate. You need to be able to throw things away. Like, so now you could throw that insight away, like in 12 hours, wow, that's a lot of resources and that's a lot of energy. And to have that be quote unquote wrong can become an issue when you're generating an insight in 15 minutes. Okay, so we were a little off. Hey, we'll just run it again and tweak it.
Totally. You can only innovate when you can experiment. And like you said, you can kill those experiments.
Yes.
If you're not ready to kill experiments, if you're not ready to let your baby go and get another one, you're not going to get there. If you get emotionally attached, that's what I be coaching people on. Don't take things personally. Look at the intent. Nobody comes to work to make anybody's life difficult. We are all in this together. So, people and relationships are hugely important, but we were getting there. And after that was a time when I did a small consulting gig in the mid just to taste it because the offer came and I was like, never done that. So let's see how that goes. And that confirmed that I am an enterprise leader wanting to make change from within, not from outside. So got back into enterprise leadership with Ports of Auckland. And again, a fantastic opportunity, great place to be. And again, we are clear on what we are focused on, at least in the short term. Our new CEO started just this week. And, we, for last 3-4 years, our strategy has been focused on automation. We are automating the entire container operations terminal. And now we know that, as we come to completion of that project, we would be looking to write a new business strategy. And while we are clear on the data strategy for the short term, which is all about foundations, so build strong foundations, again, build that one source of truth so that I know I can easily access data and use it to make decisions. We know we don't just want to do hindsight, looking at what happened. We definitely want to get to insight and foresights and enable a much smarter, much more intelligent organization that can use the power and intelligence of data and algorithms to move forward and be forward looking. So we are really looking forward to that, but at the same time, really enjoying building those foundations in a strong way as well and solving business problems.
Yeah, you're this repetitive, I don't want to say rinse repeat, but each company is different. Each challenge, while they have similar patterns that we all get to apply, well, me with very little hair left, et cetera. I got lots of patterns I get to apply, but it's always fun to do so. So I'm actually super curious, just backing up a second on the ports, very different business than IAG and very different business from ANZ, of course. What was it that what was the appeal at that point of that drew you to that opportunity?
Yeah, a few reasons. I think I'll probably talk to 3 or 4 of them because it was a combination of them that got me here. First of all, what got me here was that, like I mentioned, I think previously, I'm really passionate about making a difference to people's lives using data. And I could see ports playing a direct role in New Zealand, helping the country move forward for citizens, for economy, for everybody. So really making a difference to the country, to the citizens, that I was getting a direct opportunity to play a role in there. That definitely enticed me. Second was the operational side of the business. So I had done a lot of customer related, analytics and data and insights. And this was giving me opportunity to dig more in the operational side of the world. And I knew the potential that intelligent automation holds in the operation space. How could you really streamline and re-engineer your business processes to get to larger efficiencies, larger cost savings, and eventually to revenue growth, because you can create those outlets. We looked at supply chain, and there were so many opportunities where the value was being lost.
Okay. Yeah.
As you get closer to the customer as well, customer element is definitely here. So I was getting the right combination of operational and customer domain. And at that time, the strategy that we had, and I'm talking about 14 months back, COVID had just hit. We were in the first lockdown. The strategy was still a lot more growth focused. We were going to build out an IoT platform. On the strategy, we had building digital and data marketplaces and enabling that for supply chain, where we could be the provider, but everybody could benefit. So a lot, and we were going to use safety as a big focus. So we were doing POCs and POEs on using machine learning for creating safety outcomes. Say, for example, we were looking to use computer vision to go when a container is coming down, a crane is bringing it down in the restricted zone. Is it safe? Do we have any human that shouldn't be around there? Could we alert? So, using those computer vision techniques to solve for those problems. So a lot of interesting stuff happening. And I just wanted to grab the opportunity to enable all of that, because I was like, underpinning all of that, you need strong data, smart analytics. Let me make it happen for you.
Yeah.
So that's what brought me to Ports really at that time. Strategy changed after that due to COVID and the hit to global supply chain. So very quickly we've got to nail the basics. We've got to again meet the birthing windows for our customers. We've got to get things out there for people to really stabilize the operations, stabilize the commercial and financial side, be a good port first. And then we'll look at all of the other innovation that we were talking about. So that was kind of parked and we focused on foundations. But I was happy because I was like, I know we're going to do it at some point. And that time, I do not have to stand up my advanced products on house of cards. I'll have strong foundations.
Yeah, excellent. And is I'd say life, business back to normal at this point for you all? Are you able now to start looking at more of the interesting stuff?
Slowly getting there, but not much. So I would say, if you're talking about the data perspective, because if you read the headlines, you will see that global supply chain still hasn't settled.
Yeah.
There is still huge impact. So we are part of the same supply chain. So no, all of the operations haven't, gotten to the point where we will be comfortable that we are able to do what we said to our customers that we will do and to our people. So until such point, I think everything else is still taking a back seat, and we are still building that one version of the truth, one source of truth that we need to make available for executives to have one-stop shop. And you go, I can now understand the health of the business. I can understand why things are happening. Now I can, think of some actions that they would from the business sense, but then we would enable through forward-looking data and algorithms. That's yet to come, which, I'm really counting on the new business strategy and the next 12 months to actually start evolving in that second horizon of data strategy.
Excellent. I was just say, sounds like the next 12 months may be getting teed up right now, which
Pretty
hopefully
much
will be a ton of fun, and hopefully the world gets a little in the supply chain, but the world overall gets closer and closer to something resembling normal.
Yeah, that's right.
This has just been fantastic, Ratneesh. So much fun. Let me, you've given myself a lot of thoughts during this. A kind of last question here. Imagine you and I are having a coffee together. I'm taking on my first leadership position relative to data. What advice would you give me? what would you want to stick in my brain as I enter my own journey?
Yeah, a few things, but I think the first one will be people. So I'll say people and relationships, make that the anchor for your leadership growth and your day-to-day work. If you're not in it to serve people and to help people succeed, and people could be people of your team, your customers, your stakeholders, your shareholders, people in societies and communities, because eventually as a data leader, you have a responsibility, you've got an opportunity to create a better tomorrow by use of algorithms. There's so much in data and AI for good. At the same time, they could be weapons of mass destruction if we don't make the right decisions now. So I'll say the world is counting on you. Later on, you're the chosen one. But for now, focus on people and be ready to be the change that you want to see in the world. If you are stuck, data is hard. People think data is easy. We know it's not because of legacy systems. Be ready to change yourself. Be ready to challenge the status quo, but with a mindset. It's a solution-focused mindset, not a complaint-focused mindset. And I'll probably share something that they could use in 3 years' time, not right now. That will be a few C's. So I'll say communicate, collaborate, and co-design with your stakeholders and your teams. You can never over communicate. Communicate. If you want people to be in this journey with you, you co-design with them. You do not sit somewhere and design your strategies, design your execution, design your operating models alone. You do it with the business, with your people, and then eventually create champions. If you want to win, you cannot boil the ocean. Look for those leaders who can champion the data for you. Create those wins, create early wins, and showcase them to create the snowball effect. So think big, but start small.
Man, I'm set. I need to go. I need to go find a job. I'm ready to go at it. This has been absolutely super fun, Dr. Suri. I really, really appreciate it. I wish we had more time.
Likewise.
I'd love to dig into some more topics here, but really, thank you so much for your time and insights. It was a real pleasure being able to join you. Thanks for everybody else for joining us today. I hope you also took some key takeaways from this.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, a great opportunity, and I'm always up for chat. So if anybody would like to connect and have a virtual coffee anytime, totally up for it.
Take her up on it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.